there was just some situations that I was just super pissed off about. And I'm like, no, enough is enough. Like when people are bullied, that's where I draw the line because I was bullied in school. And so I know how it feels. And so I stick up for people. And I'm like, no, 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 fuck no, not happening.
Welcome back to Life Happens and Then You Die, the podcast. We are diving right back into the conversation that my sister Tara and I were having. This is part 2, so if you missed part 1, you'll want to go back and listen to that to get some context. But here we go. Oh, this is a fun one. What is your very first memory of me?
Okay, I know what my first memory is. Well, there's a lot of memories, but I think my first favorite memory of you was when we lived in that house in Tigard, and we used to go down on that pool floaty thing, the dragon. Do you remember?
Yes.
And we would go down, and I remember one time our dad was like, good heavens, our dad was like, um, what did he say? I can't remember exactly, but something along the lines of, you guys are going to get hurt. And I was like, no, I'm not. Jessie is, because she's in front. And sure as shit, you got hurt. And I was just fine. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I look back now and I'm like, I was an asshole. Like, I was willing to sacrifice anybody just to save my butt. How rude is that?
That is actually
What about you?
That was the first memory too, which was like, it's fun that you said that. I remember
so cool.
Because I remember we were at the top of the stairs and I was in front, and yeah, Dad said something about me getting hurt because I was so much smaller, and
Yeah.
you said that no, and then down we go, and immediately smack.
That's actually my first memory too. I was thinking about that when I was asking the question. I remember because we were at the top of the stairs and I was in front, and that's why Dad said I was going to get hurt. And I don't remember you saying yes. I thought you said no. And then we went down and immediately face first into the wall.
Oh, that's so cool.
And what was funny is we didn't even stop. We just kept going. Yeah, you just sat in front, and I think Dad even went down a couple times this too. But I definitely remember that.
Yeah. Oh, and then another one of my favorite memories too was, remember when we like lifted the mattress up on the bunk bed? I think it was a bunk bed, or maybe it was just a regular bed, but it was our bed. And we lifted the mattress up and we were like walking on the edge of the wood and walking across. And I think that I was like the mom or something, because I remember saying, oh, I need to get my mom support on because I boat or something. And I'm just like, oh my God, we are so ridiculous. Like, looking back on all the stuff that we did before, like, was so fun. I remember, I don't remember everything, but the things that I do remember, with the exception of you falling down and cutting your chin open, and then the babysitter's dog biting your chin open, with the exception of those two, I don't remember any bad times per se. I remember like happy, fun. I remember just all different kinds of things, like Christmases and, just different stuff. And then we kind of split apart when I moved to Oregon, but we'll get into that another time, because I want to know about, what other memories do you remember?
Yes, I have a couple, but I wanted to add some context about getting bitten by the dog. So we were little. It was a new babysitter with a dog, and she had a little ankle biter. And when she first got there, she told us, "Don't pet the dog. It's not friendly." And as a little kid like that, curiosity, it's a dog. I want to pet the dog. So we were sitting there eating cereal, and I reached down, and sure shit, the dog bit me. But the dog jumped up and bit my mouth. So it punctured my lower lip, and I had a hole at the bottom of my lip on my chin. And I just remember sitting there eating cereal and just having the milk just go down my chin. And it was just the weirdest experience. I don't even know if I cried. I think I was just in shock, but I was so little. I don't know. Okay, and for the other two, and I am way better at this now that I'm older, but I used to gravitate towards the negative. So remember those friends our parents had whose oldest daughter would babysit us? She had a disability, and there was a time she got mad at us and started chasing us around the kitchen with a knife.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So I sprayed her in the eyes with Windex, and I got in trouble. I remember her dad standing in front of the doorway yelling at me to come there, and I didn't want to. So I tried to get around him and run away, and he wouldn't move. So I kicked him in the crotch, and I got into way more trouble.
I remember that. And I remember she used to call you Jessie J.
Oh, I forgot about that nickname.
Like, see, I remember positive. I remember one night when we spent the night in their house, like, um, the dad woke us up to the cars and we were like jamming out. I remember thinking, oh, this is a good way to wake up, and we were like singing and getting ready for school. And yeah, I remember all sorts of stuff from that.
Okay, I have a couple more. And they're a little negative, but they're funny memories now. Remember, our dad got a brand new utility van because he was a house painter, and we decided it would be great to wash it. We didn't have soap, so we used dirt, rocks, and water. We scratched the shit out of that van, and we honestly couldn't understand why he was so mad.
Right? Yeah. Why would we? We tried to wash your van. I don't know why you're mad.
I do remember when he got obsessed with those brand new camcorders and followed us everywhere. That was fun. He tried to give me some of those tapes a while ago, but I don't think I have them anymore.
Yeah. What's funny is I still have my camcorder and my fancy Nikon camera. Well, it was fancy back then. I remember we spent like $1,000 on that camera and I used it for a long time. And then all of a sudden I just stopped using it. Now, everybody's phones have better cameras than actual cameras. But I remember I used to use one of those. And
Oh, that's
I
so
still
funny.
have them hanging in my basement, actually.
Oh, and the first time we ever got a Polaroid?
Yes. Yes, I remember that. And I remember in high school too. In fact, it's so funny that you mentioned that because my was just telling me the other day, she's like, Mom, I want one of these cameras that and I can't even remember what she said, but she didn't know what it was called. And I was like, You mean a Polaroid? And she's like, Yeah. Like it's so funny because the stuff that she likes now is the stuff that we liked back then. And she's always telling me I'm old. And I'm like, girl, you like the same shit that I liked when I was your age. So who is old?
Isn't that wild?
Yes. That's really
Uh,
funny.
All right, one last memory. We were sleeping in the middle of the night at the same house in Oregon, and I remember waking up to some noise and looking out the window on the bunk bed, and there was a guy breaking into a car. And at first I thought it was dad, but then we just sat there and watched. And the longer we looked, we're like, oh, that's not dad. And then in the morning, the cops got called when our parents discovered the radio was missing. And they were asking all these questions. And when they left, they were talking about it. And I just said, oh, yeah, we saw it. And he's like, well, why didn't you come and get us? Why didn't you tell anybody? And I'm like, well, he looked like he was having fun.
Right? Like, yeah. It's so crazy because I vaguely remember those two. Um, like I remember them, but it's very like I don't remember the details on it. Like I remember getting in trouble when we washed dad's van, but I didn't remember that it was with dirt and rocks. And then
yeah.
with the car, I don't remember and I don't know if it's like is that a trauma response where I try to block all of this old stuff? I don't know, but I don't really remember those things. I mean, vaguely, but
Isn't it interesting how our brains work? You forget something ever existed until someone mentions it, and then it all comes flooding back. Or even sometimes you hear it and you think, no, that never happened.
yes. I know there's been times when I'm like, there is no way that happened. No way. Do you remember one time we were at grandma's house and our cousin came over and totally had us thinking, and I don't know why this popped in my head, but she totally had us thinking that if we poked a hole in our brand new bicycle seats with like a piece of wood that we could like fly on our bicycle like Mary Poppins did. And we totally got in so much trouble because we did that. And it was us that got in trouble. She didn't even get in trouble and she was the older one, right? Wasn't she older than us? I think she was.
No, she was my age. We have the same name.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
um,
remember. And I was so disappointed. I'm like, yeah, we got to do it a little differently and we could totally do it. Like, I was so naive.
And I don't remember that at all. Like, it doesn't even ring a bell.
Oh my
no.
gosh. See, it's
I
crazy. Like, the things that I remember.
Well, I'm glad we're doing this podcast so we can record these stories. A lot of the stuff I remember, nobody else knows. And it's wild to hear you say a completely different story. And I'm like, oh, yeah, now I remember this thing that happened that was completely different. And now I have to talk about it. In fact, I was talking to our uncle and our mom at different points, and I heard things that I've never heard before. And now it's like these stories are going to disappear into oblivion because I'm not going to remember them. Eventually, they're going to fade. They're going to be gone one day, and it's kind of sad.
Yes, I know. I know. And that makes me sad too because like I think about even just for my kids, like I don't remember much of my childhood. I remember a little bit, but like for my kids especially, like as soon as I found out I was pregnant with Tegan, I remember I was going to do all these scrapbooks and I was going to do all these home videos, kind of like Good Luck Charlie or whatever that show is. I was going to do all this stuff and I never did it.
It's all those good intentions. We always try different traditions for Christmas and never stuck with just one, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. Yep.
But that makes me sad is talking to the kids and realizing they don't even know who Aunt Judy was. Like, I'll mention stories of her and they'll have no idea. They're like, what are you talking about?
I was pregnant
Yeah.
with my day when she passed away. I
I,
wish that I would have taken more memories from her, and just documented, because I think I have like three pictures when we used to live um, in that house. Oh, I can't remember, but it was over by Kim's old house. Anyway, we used to live over there, and I have one picture when everybody was there and it was Christmas, and even grandma and grandpa were there. That was before she had her oxygen, and it was fun. Like everybody was there and we were just having Christmas dinner, I think, and it was just fun. Like but I think that's like the only picture that I have of her. I don't think I have any more. Maybe some that were taken by other people when she was younger, but not pictures that I took or pictures that had anything to do with me. And it's really sad because like it makes me miss them, and then it reminds me too, like, how I can't think of what that show's called. There's like a movie and they do what's called the ofrenda and they put like pictures. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, they put
oh,
pictures of like their loved ones that passed away.
Oh, yeah, it's Coco. I remember that movie well because the boy made me think of Deacon.
Yeah, I remember that. But like, I totally wanted to, or I kind of want to start doing something like that, just so that we remember our loved ones. Because honestly, I can't even remember what great grandma looked like. Like, I remember dad's mom, but I don't remember like grandma's mom, like great grandma.
yeah.
Um, I don't remember dad's grandma. Like, I don't even know honestly if we even met her.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. But what's fascinating is how everyone remembers people differently. And we've talked about this before. If I live longer than you, I get to speak at your funeral. And the stories I'll tell will be completely different from anyone else's perspective. And just for the record, I told my sister if she wants a list of people not allowed at her funeral to give it to me because I will absolutely call them out while I'm talking.
I love it.
But
That reminds me. I'll tell you in a minute. You finish.
No, I went off on a little tangent, but I would also want to propose that we do a celebration of life instead of a funeral. I like the idea of being happy and being able to clap rather than being told that you have to be quiet and sad.
Yeah, I agree. Like I don't like that. I don't like being and that's why I don't like going to funerals. Like I honestly didn't even want to go to Judy or grandma's.
Oh, those were rough.
Yeah. So I need to tell you really quick. And Tegan's gonna be mortified when he hears this. But do you remember when we went to Judy's funeral and Tegan totally poked Judy's eyeball?
Yes, and he kept going back to do it. You had to keep telling him no.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I was mortified. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. But I didn't even go and look at her. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I can't go over there. I don't want to see her. Like, I don't want to see the
was
makeup. I don't want to see how fake she looks now?
Oh, and her passing was traumatic anyway. And it just reinforced why open casket funerals are so hard for me. I've been to a few, and I remember the first one I went to was for our stepdad's brother. And I don't think anyone from that family is going to listen to this podcast. But if you do, I am just being completely honest. There is no judgment here. But his mother was in such a state of grief that she kept asking us to go up and hug him to say goodbye. And I did not want to hug him. It was such a raw, painful moment, but I didn't want to be disrespectful either. It was just one of those really awkward, heart-wrenching, I don't know what to do situations.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't even remember that. I don't even remember that. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. I remember like when he got cancer and then he died from pneumonia. Um, but I don't remember the funeral. I don't remember that at all. But I do know like any open casket, I'm like, nope, I'm cool. I don't want to see them. I want to remember them how I saw them before they passed away. Like, and it's so crazy too, because I think if I would have seen Judy knowing that, she was gone and I actually saw her, because it's still like I didn't see Judy or grandma very much after I had kids, except for at holidays, I would see them. And so it still feels like they're alive and they're just somewhere else, because I hardly ever saw them. I hardly ever talked to them. And so it wasn't even, it still doesn't feel real. And it's been a long time.
I know, and those 2 deaths were hard, and Judy's death was so unexpected. I remember I was working when it happened, and I don't answer my phone when I'm working, and our sister called my work and was just going off on me to answer the damn phone and call my cousin back because Judy was dead. And I didn't know how to respond. I was in shock. So I got off the phone, I called our cousin, and I left work and showed up just as the EMTs were taking Judy's body out. And her kids were there, and her daughter was just freaking out, crying. I mean, obviously, she had just found her mother. And I remember standing there, and as the EMTs were getting back to the ambulance, one of them just looked at her and told her to shut up, your mother's dead. And I was so livid. I was so angry that someone in that profession could say that to a grieving child in that moment.
Yeah, no kidding. You know how I found out? And Kim's gonna be so mad. But I remember like I was driving and she had called me a bunch, but I think I was either talking to my ex-husband or something happened. I don't know. But I didn't answer the phone, or maybe I was driving and I didn't pay attention. But I remember she called me like over and over and over and over again. And I looked down and I saw that it was ringing. And so I picked it up, and the first thing she tells me is Judy's dead. And I'm like, what? And I like slam on the brakes on the road. Luckily, I was out in the country where nobody else was. But I'm just like, that's how I found out about Judy. And I was so traumatized. Like, because it seems like I had just talked to her, and and I don't know how before that, but I remember her calling me and talking with me, and she was so depressed and she was really having a hard time. And so I remember her telling me that Ian is the reason why she's still alive and still here, and then short time later she passes away. And so at first I was so mad because I thought that she had ended her life. Like I didn't know that she had an aneurysm, or I think that's what it was. Honestly, I don't even know.
Ouch.
Yeah. So like I didn't even know at the time. But I remember being so angry with her and so angry with Kim, the way she told me, and like, I don't know. I know that she was panicking and she'd been trying to get a hold of me and I wasn't answering the phone. So I understand, but like, I just remember being angry too and so upset. Like, that one was probably the hardest one, I think.
Grandma's was hard for me because we had gotten into, well, not really an argument, but something happened between other members of the family. And I happened to get involved because I was trying to be the peacemaker between everyone. And one of the parties called my grandmother and told her that I had gotten involved, and they got into an argument. And then she called me and told me that I broke her trust and she was disappointed and didn't want to talk to me anymore. And that was the last conversation I had with her before she was in the hospital on her deathbed. And then when we were at the hospital, she couldn't really remember who I was. She was so doped up on morphine. I was the only one in the room for a minute, and she asked me when she was going to go home. And in my state of mind, I just looked at her and I said, "You're not going home, Grandma." And that was the last thing I ever said to her.
That's so hard. Like, yeah, I remember it was hard with grandma. I remember too, like, mom wanted us to go and I was like, no, I don't want to go. And you were with me. I remember that. And I didn't want to go. But then I don't know why. I don't know if it was you or if it was what, but I think I needed to be there because I remember, and I don't know if you were there or if it was just me and Camille, but we were in the room and they told us as soon as they took grandma's BiPAP off, she would go, you know, and so I thought she would go quickly. No, they gave her morphine and she sat there
Oh,
struggling to breathe forever.
I think her brain was gone way before her body, and that was so hard to watch. And I don't know if you remember this, but I remember it clearly because of other stuff that was going on in my life at the time. Everyone in the room had someone to hold on to. You were holding on to Camille, and I was just standing there by myself watching her struggle. And I had a existential crisis where I was just sitting there thinking, there is no God, there is no afterlife. She is her brain, and her brain is dead.
Yeah. And it was really hard. But I remember too, like, um, and this is why I think I needed to be there. But I mean, and we can go into that another time because we have our different opinions on different life things and spiritualities and stuff. But like I think that I needed to be there because when she was like struggling, I remember thinking like, why is she still here? Why is she still here? And then I asked her like out loud, and Camille was like, yeah, you know, I asked her like, grandma, why are you still here? Like, we all love you, but it is time to go. Like, you do not need to be here anymore. Stop struggling. And then she took her last breath. And I knew at that moment that she was at peace. And it's so crazy to look back at that and be like, that's why I needed to be there. Like, I needed to be there because who knows how long she would have been struggling. And maybe not, you know, I mean, I don't know, but I felt like I needed to be there for that specific reason.
Isn't it fascinating that you can be experiencing the same event and have completely different feelings and perspectives in the situation?
Yeah. I know we both can see the same exact thing and be thinking completely different things, interpreting things different, interpreting the mood of people and the situation different. Yeah,
yeah.
it is. It's really crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. All right, moving on. So, our next question: what is something I would do growing up that drove you absolutely crazy?
Oh, girl. I think. Well, do you want me to be like kind of like emotional, or do you want me to be kind of like funny?
You lean into whatever you feel.
Okay, so I'm gonna totally be funny, because I used to tease you all the time about it. Whenever Jessie is concentrating, she makes this face, which I call the concentration face, and I can't even explain it to you. But every time I think of her concentrating, I just die because I'm like, oh my god, her face. And the other day, my oldest son, made the face, and I was like, oh my
Oh,
god, you are just like your aunt. You are just like your aunt. You have a concentration face. That and a customer service voice, let me tell you.
Ah, I have never been so proud. I am ecstatic that he has a concentration face and I am not the only one.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Like she used to always do it, and I would tease her. I remember you answering the phone, and I was just thinking, what in the actual fuck? Like, why is she talking that way? And then because I, you know, my job, like talking on the phone and stuff. And one of my friends was over the other day and she's like, oh my God, you sound so fake when you answer the phone. And I was like, whatever. Ah, that's me too. I'm the same. I do the same thing that I tease Jesse for.
Oh, it just comes with the territory. You work in customer service, you have a customer service voice.
It really does. And I never, like, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I will never sound like that. I will sound normal, how I normally talk. And then I totally didn't even sound that way. I've been told by a few customers, like, you have a really soothing voice. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. And then this one guy was like, I still remember I laughed so hard. He was like, I actually like your voice and I don't want to get off the phone. I want to keep talking to you. And I'm like, what do you say in a situation like that? Like, dude, we're already done. We've already conducted our business. Like, I need to go. I have other customers waiting. And it was just, oh my gosh, that guy killed me. Like, he just kept asking me questions like work related just so that I would stay on the phone and talk to him. And I just like, oh my gosh.
Dude, I love it. I love how wild it is that as we're getting older, we are totally switching roles. Like you are experiencing things that I experienced when I was younger and vice versa. And that's it's just amazing. It really is. Gives you a different perspective on life the older you get.
Right. That's crazy. Again, we totally switch roles, like totally, completely.
All right, we're going to go ahead and jump into the rapid fire questions session. So you just respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. Usually it's a one word answer. So, coffee or tea,
Coffee.
mountains or beach,
Mountains.
morning or night,
Night.
book or movie,
Absolutely book.
your biggest pet peeve,
Whining. Whining, whining, whining.
your favorite comfort food.
All of them. No. My favorite comfort food. I don't even know. I can't even think of one. That's how bad it is. I love food. Like I'm a foodie. I just like to eat. So I don't know.
I think it's an acceptable answer. One word that describes this season of your life.
Hectic.
The last thing that made you laugh until you cried.
Oh my gosh, I was just laughing until I cried the other day. What was it about? Oh, I don't remember. It was something Brandon said. Um, Brandon is, oh, I know what it was. So I can't say it in one word though. Okay, so we were talking about my midterm and I was like, oh my gosh, I got C's on them. I was super excited. And sorry, I know I'm totally breaking the rules, but you've got to hear this because I think you'll laugh too. But anyway, so I was telling him about the C's and he's like, oh, look, you did good. C's are good. And I was like, no, because I like strive to get a, really good grade. And I wanted a 4.0, but I will settle with my 3.98, I guess, except for now after this class, who knows what my GPA is going to be. But anyways, so he was like, you did good. Like C's are good. C's get degrees, whatever. And I was like, well, yes and no. I didn't really learn the material because I just did guessing, like I was like, I only knew a few answers. And then I kind of just did, like, well, I know for sure this isn't the answer. And for sure this isn't the answer. And most of them were multiple choice. And then there was some where you like saw pictures of different body parts or different bones or muscles or whatever. And you had to say what they were. And this is what he said. So I'm going to read like three different things. So he's like, it's called educated guessing. You look at the words and say, well, that one can't be it because it means something like this. Good life skill. Maybe, or he's like, maybe not good during surgery. And I was like, what are you talking about? People are absolutely going to want me to make an educated guess while I'm cutting them open. And this is the part that he said that I was dying. I was laughing so hard I cried. He's like, let's see. I think the kidneys are lower. Oh, nope. That's the bladder. All right. Well, let's try over here. Maybe the kidneys are behind the liver. Huh, wrong again. And I laughed so hard. Like I cried because Brandon is so funny. Like he makes me laugh all the time. And it's just like silly stuff. Sometimes he does silly stuff and I just laugh. Like he's ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah.
What about for you? I want to know all of those things.
Oh, for me, coffee or tea, I would say energy drinks because I am a glutton for punishment.
I love it. As I'm drinking an energy drink at 8:50 at night.
Mountains or beach, I would go with mountains. There's just something about them. Morning or night, I prefer the night, but I am a morning person, so that's unfortunate. Book or movie, book, but audiobooks. I have a hard time focusing on movies.
Yes, it's just audiobooks for sure.
Biggest pet peeve. I wanted to say lying, but I actually think it's lack of accountability, and we talked about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That is a big thing.
Favorite comfort food? Popcorn. I mentioned that in a previous episode, but yes, I love popcorn, but it makes me sick though.
I remember that when you were talking with Melissa.
Yeah. One word that describes the season of my life. Oh, messy. It is so messy.
But you still are alive. You're still kicking. You still have a roof over your head. You still have a job. So
I
we got to
am.
be grateful for small things, right?
Oh, I am grateful for the small things. And yes, so the last thing that made me laugh until I cried. Oh, that is a hard one. And it's been a minute since that happened. It doesn't happen very often, but I will go with this. And I'm going to explain way more than I need to, but I have a tendency to do that. I have to start at a specific point in the story or I'll forget the details. So there was this guy I was talking to who I absolutely adore, by the way. I bug him all the time. And it was when we were first getting to know each other, right around St. Patrick's Day. He sent me a message asking me if I was wearing any green. And I said no. And he's like, well, you need to pinch yourself then. So I did. I pinched myself and then I sent him a response saying challenge accepted. And then I made a comment about how the next day was Awkward Moments Day and maybe I won't miss that challenge. So I was surprised, but the next day he sent me a message saying he had a challenge for me where we had to say specific assigned words in conversation without any context. So I did a few of his and I can't remember what they were. Terrible memory. And then I couldn't think of anything good, so I just said that his word was Sasquatch. And I was in the middle of working and he responded back with a story of what he did. And I can't remember it either. I know I'm terrible. I'm a terrible storyteller. But I couldn't remember what it was. But when I read his response, I just started laughing out loud while I was at work. And I couldn't stop. And I started crying. And my coworkers was just looking at me like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea if I'm okay. I couldn't stop.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Like, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, there's been so many things that have made me laugh until I cry. So that is like my challenge for you. I am going to do all the stupid things, say all the stupid things because I want you to laugh until you cry. Like, it's fun. Like, it's so fun. Oh my gosh, yesterday, speaking of laughing till you cry, I actually did laugh yesterday. But it was because the baby was just doing some really silly things. Like, he had a dirty diaper, and I was like, "You stinky boy," you know? And he was just giggling. And so I told T, and I was like, come up here. You got to like check this out. And so I showed him. And so then he was making him laugh and he had us rolling. We were laughing so hard that I started crying. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not good. But I'm going to send you that video so you can listen to it because it was really funny. He's stinking cute. But yeah, you need to laugh until you cry more because it is so much fun. I think we used to like when I was still married to my ex-husband and you were still in your old relationship, um, we used to laugh until we cried when we would hang out. I remember a lot. We would always hang out and talk and spend a lot of time together. And then we kind of drifted apart a little bit, not completely, but a little bit here and there. And now we are close, but we're nowhere near as close as we were. And I think it's just because we both have a lot going on now and our lives were stable or steady, I guess, not really stable, consistent before. And now we never know what we're doing, coming, going, who knows, upside down.
Yeah, and we don't know what's next. That's the hard part. Anything really can happen. Life can go in a completely different direction. I know what I want to happen next and what I want to hold on to, which isn't necessarily the healthiest for me, but I've never really made the healthiest decisions for myself. I am much better with other people's decisions than my own.
What do you mean?
Oh, like talking to you, if you were having a hard time, I would sit here and give you advice and talk through everything. But with me, you give me all this great advice, and I'm like, that's brilliant, but I'm going to do the exact opposite anyway. Even though I know it's going to kick my ass in the long run, I can be very stubborn.
Well, and the thing is, too, is there has been a lot of times, and I think we actually talked about this when I bought my house or when you were going through a season in your life that was particularly hard. Um, you had mentioned something about me going for whatever I wanted and how it made me look strong. And I'm like, and I remember saying something along the lines of like, that's not it at all. Like, I avoid it. Like, I put it off until I don't have a choice but to move forward. Like, I'm like a badger. I remember saying, I'm like a badger. I get cornered and then I have to react. And so, and that's kind of how I got my house because I had been looking for a house, but I couldn't find one that I liked. And now I'm glad that I went with this house. But at the time, I was like, oh gosh, but I kind of got into a nasty situation with my landlord because she had actually rented out to my ex-husband and not me, and because him and I split up at that time, she didn't want to rent to me anymore. And so I gave her my 30 days notice and I paid for the full month. And after a week, she wanted me out. But, anyways, so that's why I bought my house. Like, for examples like that, like a lot of the choices that I have made in my life have been because I was backed into a corner and I didn't have a choice. Whereas you are a little different. And
So
I'll let you speak on how you make choices because I don't want to.
Okay, I am going to contradict what I just said a little bit because as you were saying that, I realized I make my life choices based on what I think other people believe is best for me. At least I used to. I'm getting better at that. But the part where I'm stubborn is when I'm in a toxic situation and everybody can see it but me. I'm like, no, it's going to get better. But when I left my career, when everything came crashing down around me and I was hysterical, the first person I called was you. It was my sister. And we talked, and that helped me make the decision to get out of it. If I hadn't called you, I would have stayed and tried to figure it out. And your encouragement helped me change my life, even though it was super
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, especially right afterwards, like the different trials that you had. And I remember thinking, why did I open my mouth? Like I should have just kept my mouth shut. But at the same time, like I was so angry for you. Like I was so angry for the injustice and the all the big words, like the just how crappy, they treated you. And sorry, I know I shouldn't really go into it, but there was just some situations that I was just super pissed off about. And I'm like, no, enough is enough. Like when people are bullied, that's where I draw the line because I was bullied in school. And so I know how it feels. And so I stick up for people. And I'm like, no, 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 fuck no, not happening. And but at the same time, I remember thinking like, fuck, why did I open my mouth? Because now she has this other trial because of me. And I know that it wasn't just totally me. I think that you were so tired and so exhausted of fighting, and you just needed somebody to give you permission for you to do it. Like I'm not going to take all the credit for it because you ultimately made the choice. But I feel like you just said, if I wouldn't have talked to you about it and it wasn't even one time, like it was multiple times that we had talked about it. And I told you just leave. And I was like, and if I were you, I would have left. And so I feel like you just had enough and you were physically and mentally and emotionally drained and you just couldn't deal with it anymore. And so you did. But I remember you telling me, you're so strong. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I just react. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to relate this to my anatomy class because there was something, and now I can't even remember, but it was something about a fast twitch or a slow twitch, and I can't remember which one's which. But if I'm correct, I think the fast twitch was like when you have a lot of power, like really quickly, and then you're done because you get tired or whatever. And that is how I am. Like I explode, I react real quick, and then I'm done. Like not physically, but like when I get to a point, like when I was so mad with my landlord because she was being stupid, like, you know, and she just after I paid my full month, she wanted me out. And I was like, fine, cool. I'm just gonna leave this house. And I got out there real quick. I left it dirty, I left it falling apart. And I was like, I don't even care because I paid for a full month and she's rushing me to get out of it now. And so to me, that's not strength. That's, kind of, like I said, being a badger, like, doing what
survival.
you have to do, survival, reacting, just barely, whatever it is. Like that's how I make my choices, or it used to be. I'm working on that. There's still some where I'm like, I have a feeling like the other day I almost quit my job because so we have these people that are there to help you. They're supposed to help you with questions that you have. And they're like, I talked to two people back to back and they were both so rude. And I was like, you know, I really can't do this anymore. Like, if this is how every day is going to be, because I've only been with my job for a little under a year. So in September, it'll be a year. And so I remember thinking, like, if this is how it's going to be every day, I'm going to quit. And had I not talked to the next lady that I talked to, I would have quit because I was so upset. I was like, these people are here to help. This is their freaking job. And the situation was crap, anyways, because the computer did something it wasn't supposed to do. And it made a big mess. And then we had all these people trying to fix the issue. And it was horrible. And at the end of the day, it wasn't even my fault. um, the situation started. I just made it worse by trying to fix it. And I should have just let it go. But that's why I'm talking about, like, my explosive behavior. Like, when I get backed into a corner, that's when I freak out. And then I'm like, nope, done. Not doing this, not putting up with this anymore. Like, this is how it's going to be. And that's how I make my decisions. That's how I make my choices before. And now I'm getting better, or trying to, but I still, like, with that, I still have my times when I freak out. But before, I would have just quit right then and there and been like, no, fuck this. I'm not doing this. This is not worth it. But the lady that I talked to last, she's like, listen, this is just a job and no job is worth you crying over. And I was like, huh. And she's like, I'm going to help you through this. She's like, there is no mistake in the world that we can't fix. She's like, we will fix it. It just might take a different route, might take a different, planning, might take a whatever, but we will fix it. And she's like, I'm going to go reach out to whoever she had to reach out to. She's like, I want you to go take a break, walk around, get a drink of water. And if she had not talked to me that day, I would have lost my shit. I would quit.
Yeah, so you have those pressure points. And you said something important that I want to address. If I hadn't left the situation I was in, the things that happened after still would have happened, but I would have been dealing with twice as much stress. And I couldn't imagine surviving that. It was a blessing, actually. And you also said the word permission. And this is going to be hard for me to admit on a podcast, but I'm going to do it anyway because we are unscripted and being vulnerable here. But I realize I feel like I need permission to exist in anyone's life. I'm constantly asking people if it's okay that I'm in their life because I feel like one day they're just going to turn around and say, you're too much, you're a burden. And I'm not saying that they're going to, that is a fear that I have based on previous past experiences that I've had. And it's hard to get over that mentality.
Yeah, and that's really tough. And that reminds me of, like, when you were talking about counseling, and honestly, like, I don't know if it was you or Melissa said, like, counseling is not for everybody. It's not, but it should be, because I feel like it's just like you're talking to a friend that's, when you find the right one, that's not emotionally tied with you, so they can sit back and look and be like, hey, that's not safe. That's toxic. That's this, that's the other. And that's what I love about you. Like, you always have my back. Always, 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 even when I've done stupid shit over and over and over and over again, and I keep doing the same thing. Like, you always have my back, but you also tell me the truth. I will always have your back. And I remember, um, there's just been a few things that we've gone through that, put a little wedge in our relationship, but then we came back.
And this is something that I feel very strongly about. And I think the reason that our bond is so unbreakable is because we aren't afraid of healthy conflict resolution. When something goes wrong, we might need a moment of space to regulate, but we always return to the conversation. We don't sweep things under the rug. We built this foundation entirely through friendship, honesty, and total transparency. We're going to fight. Of course, we're going to fight. That's just the nature of any deep, authentic relationship. But that's the way we approach the resolution head on that makes it all so different.
I agree. I agree 100%, because if we don't have that honesty, like, there's some people in my life that I'm just like, you lie about everything.
Oh, isn't it fascinating? We've talked about this before in private conversations. And I think a truly healthy, secure relationship It's where you have the psychological security of knowing you won't lose that person. You feel safe enough to be incredibly blunt. That's where real open communication comes from. But then you have the flip side of that. You have people who abuse that security and treat others poorly because they think they'll never leave me, so I can act however I want. That's toxic and very manipulative. And then you have the completely conflict avoidant group, and these people will constantly make excuses or lie, not necessarily because they're being malicious, but because they are paralyzed by the fear of confrontation. And it's ironic because the very avoidance they use to prevent conflict is the exact thing causing that conflict to escalate.
Exactly. And they don't see that. They don't see that it's the reason why. Either that or they just don't care or they're ignorant. I don't know. But they don't. It's so frustrating to me. Like, it really frustrates me. Like, I know that everybody lies over one thing or another, and they have lied, and they will probably continue to lie over stupid stuff. But like for example, if I ask, my boyfriend, do I look fat? Like, whether he thinks it or not, he's not going to tell me. He's smarter than that. He knows better. But like, that to me isn't a big deal. But like, I had an ex boyfriend, like, he lied to me about a bunch of stuff, but like smoking. And I'm like, dude, you smell like cigarettes. Like, I know that you're smoking. I'm not stupid. But he would not admit it. He would not admit it. And I'm like, why are you lying? Things like that. That's what pisses me off. Like, things like, I'm going to help you with this or I'm going to help you with that. Even if I didn't even ask them to, if they just came up and they're like, hey, and then they lie about, like, oh, that it makes me mad.
Yeah, and it makes it worse when the avoidance is actually what's creating the conflict that they're so afraid of. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy there.
Yeah. And then they try to turn it around like you're being dramatic or you're being overly sensitive or whatever. But the reality is it has nothing to do with the situation per se or what happened. It's everything to do with if you're going to lie to me about that, what else are you going to lie to me about?
Well, it's the principle of it, right? And I truly believe some people, they're intentional with it. It's toxic and self-serving, but there is a large group of others who don't even recognize the consequences of their actions because they're so afraid of someone getting mad at them. They want to avoid that conflict. They'll do whatever they can to sidestep it, even though it's creating a bigger issue in the long run. Like, I've even caught myself doing this. Like, I'll have someone invite me to go out, and then the morning of, I will be feeling super anxious. And instead of just being honest and saying, hey, I'm having anxiety or I'm having a panic attack and I'm just not able to do this, I'll just make a vague excuse to avoid the awkwardness.
Yeah. That's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but that reminds me like when I was really, 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 really struggling with depression. Um, and I would always be like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that, and or somebody would invite me and I'm like, yeah, for sure, let's do that. And then every time I'd make an excuse. And that was why, because I was down and I just didn't want to, or I didn't want to deal with them, which I guess that's kind of lying by omission. But
Yeah, the depression and anxiety is such a hard thing to go through, especially when you don't want someone to know what you're going through. I was talking to someone about my art the other day, and we got into a conversation about burying your emotions. And I realized that I would rather have people pay attention to the artwork I create than the artist behind it, because actually being truly seen is very scary.
yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and I think there's some avoidance in there too. Sometimes you blow up a situation worse than what it would have been because you didn't give the other person the chance to support you. You just worry so much about how they'll perceive that struggle that you hide it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point because there has been a lot of times when I've kept my mouth shut because of that. And it might not have even been a big deal. They might have been like, let me help you or let me do this, or, they would have had a reason, they could have been completely cool about the situation. But instead, you never gave them the chance. So that reminds me of like, Um, I remember I used to have people come to my house all the time, and they would visit with me, and I remember one time, like, I started crying because I was really struggling with something. I don't remember what it was. And they were like, let me help you. And I was like, I don't want your help. Like, it's not because I feel like I'm too good. It's because I feel like I don't deserve it. And they were telling me how, like, this is blessing me by letting me help you. And so now I try to look at things differently when people ask me if I need help. Like, I accept it, whether I need it or not. Yeah, sure, like, absolutely, that would be amazing. Or if if somebody gives me a compliment, and you need to work on that too, Jessica. um, if someone gives me a compliment, like, accept it. And I can't remember where I heard it or if I read it, or maybe you even told me. I don't know, but I vaguely remember something about somebody said, when I give you a compliment, if you tell me, no, that's not true, that's not right, whatever, you're denying my feelings, because my feelings are telling me that I think you're nice, or I think you're pretty, or I think you're this or that. And you're telling me, no, I'm lying. Like, and so it's kind of disrespectful if you look at it that way.
Yeah, I didn't say that, but I'll definitely take credit for it. It's all about challenging that internal narrative, which reminds me of the psychology of love languages. One of mine is gift giving or acts of service. I love to do things for people that trigger an emotional response. If I know there's something that they really want or need, I'll buy it for them or I'll do it for them when I can. And I met this person that I did something for, and they got so upset with me, and I didn't quite understand it. And they were like, you don't understand. You did this really nice thing for me, and I cannot afford to or have the bandwidth to do anything in return. So now I feel guilty and I feel like I owe you something because you did this. And I had never looked at it that way before.
Yeah, because your love language is gift giving. So, of course, like, to you, it doesn't seem like, and even to me, like, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. And when I give you a gift, it's because I want you to have the gift. It's not because I expect you to give me something back.
Yes.
And people need to learn that. But it's based on how we grow, how we were raised, how we've lived, different scenarios that we've went through our lives, and what we've come across, been through, whatever you want to say it, or however you want to say it. And so, in the past, like, for me, it was hard at first when people were giving me gifts, because in the past, I've had some relationships that weren't the best. And whenever they would do something that was horrible, they would go and buy me a gift, because, like, this will make it better. She likes things. Like, I'm going to let her get her nails done, or I'm going to let her get her hair done, or I'm going to pay for this or that or the other. And it was literally to buy my forgiveness. And so at first it was hard for me to take gifts, never from you, because I always knew that your love language was gift giving. And I remember, um, at first I needed help with everything. And then after that, then you stopped, like, going overboard. And now, and I'm not saying you don't give me things. That's not what I'm saying. But before, you, like, went overboard. Like, you would give us stuff that was not necessary. But that's your love language. That's what you felt like doing. And so I was okay with it. But, like, with other people, I'm like, no, you are trying to buy my forgiveness, and that doesn't work for me. Like, I've been there, and I went through 3 years of counseling to get over that, and I'm not going to go back. It's so funny because now when I see things that people are doing, because I went through that in the past, I'm like, that is not okay. And I remember you telling me, like, I told you one thing that a boyfriend of mine in the past told me. And you were like, that's gaslighting. And I was like, is it really? Like, because I was literally starting to think that I was crazy, like, literally thinking that I was crazy. And you're like, no. And so now when I hear people, saying things like to their spouses or their whatever, I'm like, that is total gaslighting bullshit. And that is not okay.
Look at me influencing you. But I kind of want to circle back. When we were talking earlier about love languages that sparked something, and I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent, a little rabbit hole, if you will, as I tend to do, and have an educational moment. I also tend to over explain things. And just for some context, I when Tara first started going to college, she had this psychology class that I absolutely loved doing with her, and that kinda just stuck with me, so I love going on these little psychology adventures. But so when we were going talking about gift giving, and that in that instance, it was perceived as a transactional relationship. It's based on exchange or mutual benefit. So if I do this, you do that. And if you're used to that kind of relationship, that's what you'll gravitate towards. But there are other types. There is the communal relationship based on care, support, and meeting each other's needs without keeping track of who's done what. There's reciprocal, where people give and receive over time, but not necessarily equally at the same time. There's interdependent, which is two independent people who rely on one another in healthy ways so they can maintain their own boundaries and their own lives. They just come together to support each other. There's unilateral, where one person invests significantly more than the other person. And then you and I are both very familiar with this relationship type, Tara. It is the codependent. This is one where both people rely on the relationship in unhealthy ways to identify their self worth and their emotional stability.
Yes. And that is something that I went through counseling for because little did I know how much I actually relied on it. And it's funny because it wasn't even like, I mean, I wanted obviously care and support and love and whatever when I was married. But honestly, the thing that I missed the most, besides that companionship, was the stability of knowing that he, regardless of how many jobs he lost, which he did not, but if he would have lost jobs, like he was willing to work anywhere to provide for his family. And so that's one of the things that I was really codependent on. And now, like, I look back and I'm like, fuck, how am I going to do this? Like, I have to be the provider, I have to be the nurturer, I have to do everything. And it's really hard now. But that's the thing is I was completely codependent on him that way. And then with some of the other relationships, it was more being codependent with to make myself feel better.
Yeah,
If they weren't happy, I wasn't happy. If they were mad, I was mad. If they were sad, I was sad, that kind of thing. And it really took a toll on me.
Yeah, in fact, I was never codependent with finances. I've always been super independent financially. I've always felt that I've had to be able to support myself in a relationship. And in fact, I was the primary caregiver for my very first relationship for 7 years.
Oh, I
uh,
remember that. That was horrible.
Yeah, yeah, it was. But where I was codependent was self worth. If they were mad at me or didn't see me in a certain life, I had no self worth. If they approved of me, then I had value. And that's something I'm very aware of now. And if I ever get into a relationship again, which my dating life hasn't been the greatest, but I want an interdependent, supportive relationship where we can keep our own identities and boundaries and grow together without losing ourselves, but also without ignoring the other person's needs because we all have needs.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, it's true. And that's the thing. Like, it's when I'm struggling that I want somebody there. When I'm not struggling, I'm like, whatever. Regardless of what I'm struggling with, whether it's money or which I haven't, I mean, I did go through a spout where I was kind of freaking out, but luckily I had enough savings that I didn't have to worry about it. But like when I went on maternity leave, and then my job also offered bonding time after that. So I was literally off work for 4 months and I literally spent like almost every single penny that I had of my savings. But anyways, so whether it's money or whether it's like if I'm having a bad day and I'm not feeling worthwhile, not feeling worth anything, emotionally or whatever, whatever it is, then that's when I want somebody around.
Yeah, and I noticed something, and I had a bit of an aha moment recently. The last person I caught feelings for was so supportive of my artwork and creativity, which really sparked me to be more passionate with it. I mean, I usually go through spurts where I'll paint or draw and then I won't do anything for 6 months. But I've been painting and doing projects consistently for 4 months now because of the inspiration that connection brought into my life. And I mean, there were so many other reasons why I cared for him, but that's a very different story for another time or, not. When he eventually told me he didn't want a relationship, I was initially really depressed because I felt like I was finally becoming the person I wanted to be, and I thought he was the reason. But it hit me, he didn't make me that person. He just opened the door to allow me to see that I could be that person. And I'm grateful for that spark that he created. And now I'm trying to hold on to that version of myself because I'm the one with the creativity and I'm the one who did the work. And the motivation is mine to keep. There's no reason I can't continue to create my own happiness and hold on to that drive for myself.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. I love that you realize that. It's crazy how when you and I talk, we learn things every day. Every day that I talk to you, I learn something new, whether it's about
Ooh.
myself or about you or about whatever, you know. And it's interesting. It's really interesting how we interact and how we learn things.
Yes, and that is an ongoing struggle. I think it's not just a one and done where you learn it and then move on. You are constantly learning that through every situation you go through, the good or the bad. It's holding on to that and being able to continue to grow because there are days where I'll wake up and be like, what's the point? What is all of this? And I try to say, well, you're doing it for yourself. My negative self talk immediately goes, well, that doesn't matter. Who cares? Who gives a fuck if you're doing it for yourself? You're not an important person in the world. And I have to sit myself down and be like, shut the fuck up, Jess. Why are you so mean?
Yeah. That's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny that you mentioned that because I remember, I don't know where I heard it from either, but somebody was saying, like, you are your own worst critic. Like, you need to
Yes.
be positive towards yourself and don't speak or think negatively because then eventually you believe it. And so
Mhm.
that's why they always say, speak positivity, speak, you know, goodness and whatever out there into the universe because then good things will happen.
And I believe it to a point, and we've talked about it before. It's a mindset thing. Because if you're always thinking you're going to fail, you don't have enough confidence in yourself. The possibility of you failing is exponentially higher because that mindset that you have. And on the flip side, you pivot to a place of believing that success is inevitable and you just keep pushing, keep showing up and keep iterating, that changes everything. Even if you do fail or don't hit the exact goal you were aiming for, you didn't actually lose because you put in the work, you walked away with a new skill set, and you grew. You take that data, you apply it, and you keep going. It's not about avoiding the failure, it's about making the failure work for you so you can try again from a different place.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And I say all these things like I do them all the time, but if we're being real, it's not even close. Maybe like 30% of the time. Yeah. I'll uh I'll actually do it like 30% of the time if I'm being generous.
You know what's funny is I feel like you always give me good advice and I always give you good advice, but we never follow our own advice.
And it's an ongoing struggle. I think we're going to look back at this like a few months from now and still be doing the same thing. But I just realized how far into this conversation we are. And I think it's time that we wrap things up. But Tara, before we go, is there anything that you would like to say to those who are listening?
Yeah, like I just had a blast doing this. Again, like I said at the beginning, like I didn't think that it would be fun and I really enjoyed it a lot actually. Um so yeah, I would love to come back. I would love to talk about different things. Like everybody can see that listened all the way through. We have been all over the place and talked about everything. And that's Jesse and I. That's our relationship. That's our conversations. That's who we are. We are all over the place all the time. And sometimes I'll say something and 20 minutes later, I'll think of something else. And yeah, so I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. And please ask questions because we like questions.
Absolutely. We do like questions. And Tara will be back. So get ready for more of our sisterly shenanigans. And maybe if we're lucky, the kids will grace us with their presence next time, or at least maybe the teenager that's an adult now, because legal reasons and child labor and all that fun stuff.
Oh, totally. We should. We totally should. I think that'd be so fun.
All right, awesome. So if you like this content, please make sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe, do all the wonderful things that these platforms allow you to do to support us. It really helps us grow. And we have a lot of fun doing it and sharing all of our embarrassing stuff with you. So we will see you again next week, hopefully.